In our session. I'm Dr. Hanna Chusid. I'm a licensed psychologist and a certified yoga instructor, certified medical hypnotherapist. Before I introduce you to this week's guest speaker, I want to introduce you to Sleep ASAP. Sleep ASAP is a new global sleep management education platform established by an international team of specialists in different fields, including art therapy, music therapy, psychology, and neurology. We've gathered in order to promote awareness and discuss effective and affordable alternative solutions beyond medications for people with sleep issues. Whether you have sleep issues, you work in this field, or you're a student studying in this field, or just in general want to learn, this webinar is for you. Today we have the pleasure to host Professor Antonio Zadra. We will discuss with him how dreams relate to our well-being. And a little bit about Professor Zadra. He's the director of the university's Dream Research Laboratory in Montreal. I'm not sure which university, we'll find out. And he leads the research group investigating sleep disorders at the Center for Advanced Research in Sleep Medicine. His research has attracted considerable attention from national and international media outlets, including television stations, the Discovery Channel, as well as notable newspapers and magazines. So good day, Professor Zadra. I'm really happy to talk with you. Dreams are one of my great fascinations, as well as many people. So please give us a little bit of background about yourself, including which university you're connected with. I apologize, I didn't have that.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm always happy to talk about dreams, since there are so many misconceptions and myths surrounding them, and certainly a topic that is of interest to many. So I'm affiliated with the University of Montreal, which is the largest and oldest Francophone university in North America. Prior to that, I was at McGill University, also here in Montreal, and as you mentioned, I also work at a sleep laboratory, which is at the Sacré-Cœur Hospital here in Montreal, where we have a group dedicated to the study of what's known as parasomnias, which includes things such as sleepwalking, sleep terrors, and of course I have a long-standing interest in everything to do with dreaming and different kinds of dreams, be it lucid dreams, recurrent dreams, nightmares, and so on.
How did you get involved in what drew you to the study of sleep and dreaming?
My initial calling actually came not for an interest, anything to do with sleep, but really for dreams. And this may sound corny as a story, but it's absolutely true. It actually came from a dream I had. While I was in college, since I was in high school, I always assumed that I would go in medical school. That's what my brother had done. That was the venue I always had in mind. And in college, I had this very long, convoluted dream that was exceptionally vivid, had many sensations to it. I got stabbed, I was in pain, I could feel the warmth of my blood. I escaped from this prison, which actually was my college. Anyways, it was a very long, poignant dream, and also one in which I became aware that I was dreaming. At one point, I cleared this very high fence that was about 3 or 4 meters high, with barbed wire on the top of it, and I landed on the other side, and I landed in a. Can I just go turn that off?
Sure, do what you need to do. While he's taking care of that, I'll mention that I've been tracking my dreams for almost 40 years. And initially, I trained myself in dream recall very young. I was like 19, 20. I was just saying while you were away, Professor Zadra, and I'd like you to continue, but then I'll say something about my own background with dreams.
Okay. Yeah, so I ended up jumping over this high barbed wire fence, and I landed on the other side. And I was in a field of grass when I jumped, and landed in some snow. Put my hand in the snow, and it was very cold. And it's at that point that I realized a lot of what had happened just previously didn't make any sense, and that the only thing that made sense was if this was a dream. And I became perplexed by the idea that I was in my bed sleeping right now while all this was going on. At one point, I even tried yelling in the dream, knowing full well that I was probably not a single sound was coming out of me while I was fast asleep. I didn't know that this phenomena had a name at the time. That they were known as lucid dreams. This was the first dream that I noted down in a journal. I started keeping a journal shortly after that. And at the same time, as I started looking up these kinds of dream-related phenomena, were the first studies coming out of Stanford by Stephen LaBerge showing that it was possible to study lucid dreaming in a laboratory through some basic psychophysiological setups, that people could signal when they were lucid in their dreams by means of intentional eye movements that could be recorded by an oculogram in the sleep lab. And so from there, my interest grew. I ended up reading more about dreams in general, a lot about lucid dreams. That was really what fascinated me the most. And sufficiently so that eventually I decided that that's what I wanted to try to study anyways, not knowing if it was possible to one day make a living studying these kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
But it worked out.
I see that.
I followed my dreams, quite literally.
I hear you. I hear you, and I appreciate that. I was just starting to, while you took the moment break, to share my connection with dreams, and that I began recording my dreams when I was about 19 or 20, occasionally when I was younger, but nightly, trained myself in dream recall and all the various steps that you're probably aware of. And for about a decade, recorded my dreams nightly, and then was able to determine which ones had more significance for me, and started being more selective about which dreams I recorded. So I have 40 years of tracking my dreams, and about 5 years ago started to categorize them. Okay. So I have 40 years of categorized dreams ready for your research lab. I'm not sure what to do with them, but
I'm sure we can put them to good use.
So we'll
That's
see.
Quite a collection. Wow.
It is. It is. So one of the things, this dream you spoke about is an example of lucid dreaming. I've also seen definitions of, and for the viewing audience, lucid dreaming referring to when one is aware during the dream that you're dreaming. I've also read descriptions that lucid dreaming can include, or the definition might include, not just when you're aware, but particularly exceptionally vivid, sensorially activating dreams. In your view, is that also considered by definition a lucid dream?
I don't think it necessarily has to, but most people who experience lucid dreaming, be it occasionally or frequently, tend to report that these dreams are exceptionally vivid, be it visually, be it they're emotionally intense. In many ways, they are not that unlike the experience people can have of nightmares that are also very vivid, very involving, except the lucid dreams tend to be at the other end of the emotional spectrum. They can be very pleasant dreams, even euphoric. Some people can engage in fantastic activities such as flying, exploring new areas, landing. But yes, there is this sense that there's this hyperrealism, that this virtual world that we are immersed in is exceedingly convincing, more so than everyday dreams we tend to have.
I don't think I asked quite clearly. That's informative, but what I really meant to ask was that is the definition of lucid dreams, I've read that can mean a vivid dream, a hyper-real dream, even if you don't recognize that you're dreaming.
Oh,
is that...
No, really the whole idea and the history even behind the name of lucid dreaming, which is derived from a German terminology, really refers to the capacity or the moment that we become self-aware of our situation, namely that we are dreaming while the dream is still ongoing. And this can happen independent of the degree of realism in the dream, independent also of any of our abilities to influence how the dreams unfold. Some people sometimes confound lucid dreaming with the ability of controlling one's dream. And it's possible for people, rarely, but to influence how dreams unfold without ever becoming aware they are dreaming. And there's people who are fully lucid in their dreams. They know that at this time they are in bed, they are sleeping, but who are not able to influence how the dream unfolds. So the dream construction process, they still enjoy it, they go with it, or they don't have no inclination to do so. So my understanding and how I've always approached this, either in terms of research or, like I said, in terms of historical accounts of lucid dreaming, is always really this reference to this capacity to know that one is dreaming during one's sleep.
So it seems to me, from the amount of websites and articles that I see just casually without even really searching for them, that one would think that there's a great number of people, that it's a very common phenomena, and I'm wondering if that's the case. To me it seems that because it's so fascinating that it may be overrepresented in writings and websites and the interest in it compared to how often. What's the frequency of lucid dreaming, as far as you know?
Well, again, it depends on what, if we want really proficient lucid dreamers, people who do it on a weekly or even nightly basis, those are exceedingly rare individuals. Maybe half the population will report having had one lucid dream during their lifetime, often when they were kids, not necessarily as adults. And about 1% out of 5, 20% or so, will report having the occasional lucid dream. So I think you're right in that the amount of attention given to lucid dreaming on multiple social platforms on the web certainly demonstrates that there's an interest for it. Maybe also that's accrued in recent years with films like Inception, other shows where dreams play a role. So there's certainly a large interest in it. There's a lot of people who want to learn about how they can become lucid in dreams. So there's a lot of interest in having them. But to get back to your question of how many people actually do it and do it regularly, it's really a great minority.
So what is your approach to the study of dreams, to the working with them, looking at the emotions or people's state of alertness, or understanding dreams as a reflection of their lives? How do you look at, what do you do with the material that you get?
Okay. Well, first of all, I have to separate my research interests from more clinical or personal interests. So in terms of research, our approach is basically one where we aim to collect many dreams from individuals. By many, I mean at least 2, 3, 4 weeks worth. Ideally, we want a minimum of about 20 dreams per person. And these can be either laboratory dreams, but more frequently these are dreams we collect because we want long series They tend to be collected in dream journals that people keep at home. There's other ways people can tape record them. People can enter them on a computer and text them. But we take these long series of dreams, and once we have these narratives, we try to quantify their contents. And there exist instruments that have been designed and validated and used in dozens upon dozens of studies to try to quantify their contents. What I mean by that is there are variables in the dreams that are of interest to researchers. So who are the characters? Are they known, unknown? What are their sexes if they are known? Are they male, female? Where does the dream take place? Is it a known setting, an unknown setting? Is it familiar to them? What are the nature of the social interactions? Are they friendly? Are they aggressive? Who initiates them? What are the emotions in dreams? And all this, there exist instruments to codify all these things.
And what?
Yeah.
Once you've codified the content,
yes.
How are you using that? What is the application of that information?
Okay, so that's the first step, and that gives us a portrait of across a series of dreams. This person's dreams tend to be more negative than positive. There tend to be more aggressive interactions than friendly. When there are aggressive interactions, they're always with male characters, rarely with female characters. So you get this global portrait. Then you can either compare these characteristics with normative data. All these variables have normative data for men, women. But our main interest is trying to look at relationships between these variables and measures of waking states. By that, it can be personality. People who are introverted, extroverted. Does this show up in people's dreams? People's well-being, people who are anxious, less anxious, depressed, non-depressed. We studied the dreams of people diagnosed with schizophrenia. We try to look at links between dream content and general measures of well-being. So it's really to try to establish parallels or ways in which dream content can be shown to correspond to particular dimensions of people's waking life. In essence, the goal of all this is to try to elucidate in what ways can we show dreams are not random mental constructions, but that they show fairly systematic, robust relationships with certain parameters of waking life. The challenge is in understanding which dimensions in dream content, again, it could be settings, characters, emotions, and so on, are most robustly related to what kind of variables in the person's waking life. Is it their personality, their concerns, and so on?
This may not be a fair question, and just say so if this is would take the whole webinar. But is there briefly? Are there 1, 2, or 3 correlations that you found that dreams are reflecting what aspects of waking consciousness or?
No, that's a very fair question, a very good one. And if I was to distill many years of work from our lab and others, I think there's 2 key dimensions that people should be paying particular attention to in their dreams, and that is, what are the emotions that we are feeling in the dream? And the second is, what is the nature of our social interactions? That is, how are we interacting with the other characters in our dreams? And who are they? Who are these people? And most people, when they have other characters in their dreams, tend to be people that they know. Be it family members, co-workers, people they haven't seen in a long time, friends. But unknown dream characters are a minority. They do show up in dreams quite frequently. They're still a minority. And so these 2 dimensions, emotions and social interactions, are probably the 2 that reflect best how we are feeling. So our well-being in waking, whether we're going through a rough patch, whether we're concerned about relationships we have with colleagues at work, with our parents, with our kids, with a spouse. So these ongoing concerns that we can have that can be taking up a lot of our mental, physical, emotional energy during wakefulness tend to be the things that seem to most correlate with these particular dimensions of dream content, like I said, emotions and social interactions.
So you're seeing a clear relationship between the waking well-being and what shows up in people's dream life.
Yes, and we've shown this in multiple studies. We've also shown it in longitudinal studies. We've done one study, for instance, where we followed people over a 6 to 10 year period. And at both periods, we collected their dreams, we collected several measures of psychological well-being, and these patterns were true not only at the individual points in times, but across time. By that, what I mean is the people who had lower levels of well-being and whose levels over 6 to 10 years increased for whatever reasons, we saw a positive changes in their dream content over that period of time. And the inverse is true. People who over 6 to 10 years started having more higher scores on measures of anxiety, neuroticism, depression, that is, people whose well-being decreased over time, you start seeing more negative elements in their dreams. No, so there the evidence, I would say, is quite fairly robust, to me reasonably compelling as far as these kinds of variables go.
It makes sense that we're not a different person when we go to sleep, that our states of consciousness have continuity across waking and sleeping.
Absolutely. And I think also that people tend to misunderstand at least partly the nature of dreams, because many people say, oh, dreams, they're bizarre, they're fantastical, and so on. But when you look at thousands of dreams from hundreds of people, most dreams aren't bizarre. Most dreams aren't unusual, don't have the logical elements in them. But the dreams we choose to share with others tend to be unusual dreams. And so if I have a dream where I'm stuck on the highway in my car because there's a traffic jam, and that's what I wake up remembering, I'm probably not going to go tell my spouse, listen, what dream I had last night. I was stuck in a traffic jam. No, we choose to share dreams that stand out and that are unusual, or that make us perplexed, or fantastical. And so to the extent that many people do that, and that also often it's more the bizarre dreams that are shown in the media, be it films, novels, I think there's this this view that has developed over time that they are necessarily bizarre and strange, and although they certainly can be, most aren't.
I'll interject here that while I haven't had what sounds like maybe hundreds of thousands of dreams that you've looked at over my clinical career of 40 years, and with dreams being an interest, I've probably heard a few thousand dreams, and people bring what are the more unusual or with seemingly bizarre, and with just a focus on it, and my skills clinically, and even what presents as bizarre often isn't when you sort of break it down into looking at the emotional elements of the dream, and as you say, and the relationship. I focus on the emotion and the actions and the choices and the decisions. There's frequently a very clear and almost in your face obvious a connection with something going on or concern, and sometimes not immediately, but when you look at it over a few weeks and what's unfolding for the person. What is I want to connect it with sleep in a moment, so I'm going to ask, we better start to wind down here, but there is that category of dream that people are very interested in and curious about, which has to do with dreams that are predictive. Not so anything you'd say about that? Dreams that seem to suggest not just something that gives you an idea of, I'm going to go into studying this area, but something that actually seems to be precognitive.
Okay, so dreaming of particular events before they occur.
Yeah.
So clairvoyant dreams or precognitive dreams. Okay, I have three things I want to say about that. Yeah, short. But the first is that many such dreams can be explained, And so someone, for instance, if there's a plane crash, earthquake, recently in Nepal, there's often someone from somewhere who will email me saying, I found you on the web, you study dreams, I had a dream of this plane crash or earthquake or what have you 2 months ago and now it's happened, blah, blah, blah. The problem is that almost there'll be someone somewhere dreaming of plane crashes every night, right? And if nothing happens, we don't look for correspondences. And so no one writes to me saying, you know what, I dreamt of a tsunami and it's been a year and nothing has happened. No, so there's a selective bias. Someone who I had a friend who said, you know, I dreamt that the wooden stairs to my apartment, outside of my apartment, gave out. And about a week later, they did, you know, and I almost hurt myself. But it could be that even though they weren't aware of it, they noticed the rot in it. They noticed the screws that were coming out. And so it was something that was predictable. Now, all this being said, the other thing I want to mention is that there still remains a cluster of dream reports that are not explainable in this way, or as far as I know, in any other way. And I've met a sufficient number of individuals, including colleagues of mine, who have had these experiences. I have no reason to doubt the veracity of what they are saying. There's no reason for them to lie to me or to make up these stories. And those dreams, I have really no, at least scientific explanation for. But I believe it can happen.
Yeah, well, I know it can happen. If we had more time, I'd share on that. But I would look at it as that just as in waking life, there are some people with a higher level of intuition or this phenomena of clairvoyance hasn't been explained by science. Not everything has. So they can also, what can occur in waking life can occur in dream state. So let's just take a few minutes because it's gone quickly. We're having to wind down fairly soon. How can people who are struggling with their sleep, their quality of sleep, maybe waking up frequently in the night, how can paying attention to their dreams or working with dreams improve sleep? Do you know anything or what?
I think that unless some of the sleep disturbances that they are experiences are due to some dream-related process, and so there's people who have frequent nightmares and so develop certain forms of insomnia because of their nightmares. Not just because the nightmares wake them up, but also because once they've awakened from a bad dream, they may intentionally not want to fall back asleep for fear of the dream continuing. And so they self-induce insomnia, or they go to bed very anxious for fear of having one of these experiences. There's also
so
people...
what can somebody like that do?
Well, there's fairly straightforward approaches for treating nightmares. Cognitive behavioral approaches among some of them, imagery, rescripting procedures that have been studied in about a dozen studies so far, with idiopathic nightmares, that is everyday nightmares, with trauma-related nightmares, in veterans, in women who have been sexually abused. And across these populations, these techniques, which are easy to learn and master, you work in about 80% of the time. Yeah.
Sorry. So imagery rescripting, I know what you mean, but can you, in a sentence, give us a summary of what that is, and if somebody may Google it or look for a psychologist who works with that, well, how would you describe it?
It's once you experience the nightmare, the next day, write it down, changing some element of it, whatever feels right for you. And so some people choose to change the beginning, the end, a minor detail, the color of a wall, that's all. And others change everything from A to Z. Again, my main thing would be whatever feels right to the person. But the idea is to write it down, change something in it, and you can even revisualize it. So fairly straightforward. You still won't know exactly
So the
what are the ingredients that makes this work, but there's ample evidence showing that it can be a very effective technique.
Well, at a very simple level, as with many therapeutic interventions, by writing it down and changing an element of it, you've described changing a very simple element. I usually go right for the heart of it and have people change the more disturbing parts of it, or have a face-to-face confrontation with the frightening parts of it in the rewriting or in the retelling or in the reimagining it. One thing that does is, since you're in your waking state, you have mastery over it. So at least you're in control rather than feeling at the effect of. So that's one possible explanation. So I appreciate that.
And for many people, the idea even of changing something, even in a written format of their nightmare, is something very new to them, because nightmares are something that people experience over which they have very little control. And so when they go to bed, they can be apprehensive because they don't know if they're going to have a nightmare or not that night. And so the idea that, no, you can do something proactively to try to alter the course of these things is often a new and compellingly strong psychological idea for them. Now, you originally asked about sleep quality. There are so many, literally hundreds of sleep disorders that have really nothing to do with dreaming. And so people can be tired for a host of reasons, or not sleeping well for many reasons. But some can be related to dreams and addressed.
So because of your specialty with dream research, we're focusing on the aspect of dreams and sleep, although I'm sure you've got other wisdom to impart to us, and maybe we'll have other conversations. Are there any other ways, reasons why is there anything else that you can say about attending to dreams, how working with dreams or paying attention to your dreams might have an effect on sleep or quality of sleep? Here's something specific.
Yeah.
Lots of people say, and I found this, we've got two extremes. People say, well, I have bad dreams and disturbing dreams, and that affects my sleep. Or we know that people then start to avoid going to bed because of not having those negative experiences. And then there's another, the other end of the spectrum. People say, I never dream, and I don't have dreams. I don't remember them, but I'm sure that I don't have them. So what's your perspective on that, and as it might relate to sleep?
Well, there's almost no relation between the extent of dream recall people have. Everyone dreams every night. The difference is some people remember them. Some people remember them a lot. Some people don't. But the ones who don't, if you bring them into a lab and wake them up appropriately during certain periods of their sleep and REM sleep, about 85% of these people who never remember their dreams will. So dreams are easily forgotten, even if people have good recall. Unless you write it down, whatever, it's a very fragile memory that even vivid dreams that we might recall when we wake up quickly disappear. It's hard to keep a hold of it. And by even that evening, if we haven't written it down or told it to someone, we might just remember the bare bones of it or the core of it. So that being said, there's some people who remember a lot of their dreams and who report that their sleep is fine, and there's people who say that they never remember their dreams, who report significant degrees of daytime somnolence, who have other kinds of sleep problems. Now, the only thing is, some people who have, for whatever reasons, sleep disorders or conditions that tend to wake them up frequently during the night, can be more likely to remember their dreams, only because their sleep is being regularly interrupted. And so dreams that we may have otherwise forgotten, because we wake up and our waking brains become activated in that mode, that memory can be transferred to wakefulness, and they might remember their dreams. And some might even erroneously start thinking that the dreams are causing their multiple periods of wakefulness, but it can be the other way around. And that's probably where also some of the myths come about, well, you shouldn't eat spicy food before going to bed because they'll give you bad dreams, or people say, oh, having all-dressed pizza late at night or cheese. What probably happens is that when you ingest, some people ingest those foods and they're not used to it, they might have indigestion, wakes them up during the night, and if it happens to be during a period during which they were having a dream, they will remember a dream, which usually they won't. But then they attribute the dream to the cheese or what have you, whereas the cheese really caused them indigestion or wakefulness during their sleep, and that could also get integrated into their dream, by the way, our bodily sensations.
Mm-hmm. So I have another whole series of questions. I don't know really that we can go too deeply into it, but I'm also interested in that the connection, we were talking about nighttime dreams, and if your research includes looking at the connection between nighttime dreams, daytime dreams, or daytime altered states, such as you might find in a deep relaxation trainings, deep hypnotherapy, or a practice called yoga nidra, which is a kind of waking lucid dream. Sure, you would know of it. In something like yoga nidra, which is a waking guided dream, sort of a thing, would you say that something like that, is that anything you've researched in terms of its relationship to sleep? More guided?
No, it's something that is of interest, and much of the literature for a long time on general altered states of consciousness from or even states of unconsciousness or different forms of coma or locked-in syndrome, but other states as well have long been an interest of mine. However, no, I haven't done any actual scientific research on them. It's also phenomena that are very difficult to study, to obtain funding for, to look at systematically. And so I think it's more amenable to, at least for myself, as a form of personal interest. So there are people who dedicate good portions of their lives trying to better understand what's going on in these particular states and how people can achieve them and their subsequent impacts on their people, not just on their sleep, but also on their wakefulness.
Okay, thank you. So another entire separate conversation, just to put a bookmark on it. We will not have the time to discuss it. We'll some other time we'll have a conversation on the ancient approach to dreams, connect with the relationship with dreams and what we might call the indigenous cultures, the shamanic traditions, and the relationship to dreams as maybe more real than our current waking reality. But for today, we need to wind down, and I really appreciate your sharing with us your research, which is fascinating, and my takeaway is that you found a very clear connection between people's waking states of mind, emotionally, cognitive and emotional state and their waking state, and that so addressing your emotional state in your waking life in itself will improve the flavor, the tone, the emotional state of your dreams often.
And conversely, paying attention to these dreams can help us better understand the turmoil or difficulties that we're going through. The solutions might not be there, but they can certainly be helpful in their own way.
That's a very important point, so thank you. Thank you so much for being with us today and sharing your work.
Thank you for having me.
It's been really interesting, and hopefully we'll continue the conversation in other ways and maybe other webinars. So thank you very much, Dr. Zadra.
You're welcome.
And I want to wish all of you who are joining us today, please follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Google+, and you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll post Professor Zadra's contact information at the research lab so that you can follow his work if you're interested, and wish all of you a good night and sweet dreams. Thank you.
Thank you.